Hi, I'm Gina Hinojosa. I'm running to be the next governor of Texas. It's loud here. People are excited. Tomorrow is election day. We are not taking anything for granted. We've been barnstorming the state, talking to voters, hoping to win tomorrow night and focus on November.
State Representative and Texas gubernatorial candidate Gina Hinojosa from a rally event last night in Austin. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026 Election Day in Texas, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch. Rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Here at Progress Texas, we built a statewide audience and reach millions of Texans monthly. And that's thanks to folks like you who invest in independent progressive media by Texans for Texans. Huge thanks to Marlon May, Jamie Wood, and B.E. Nix for their ongoing sustaining support. Election day and the 2026 primary has arrived. The excitement level for Democrats across Texas is at a fever pitch, dare I say. A bit of a celebratory tone all around this March 3rd as we remind ourselves of the looming and difficult fight ahead through November 3rd. 8 months, y'all. It is a highly encouraging moment and feels like a powerful start out of the gate for the main event next fall. We're not the only state in the country leading the way on our primary election. Both Arkansas and North Carolina are voting in theirs today as well, but there's no arguing that the Texas primary has become the national marquee story. In fact, it's looking to have a major impact on Democratic strategy moving forward. Russell Payne at Salon writes that the contest between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and State Rep James Tallarico has evolved into a high-stakes contrast of strategies on how to best flip a teetering red state. Tallarico running a fairly traditional campaign, really. He's working to win over independents and moderate Republicans, in part through spiritual messaging and leaning on robust and active organizing. He's marshaled a volunteer corps measured in the tens of thousands, last we heard. Meanwhile, Payne sees Jasmine Crockett as the favorite of the longtime Democratic base. She's leaning on her pugilistic style and her high name recognition. The debate about electability, air quotes there, has been thick in this one, as we know, but Payne says voters appear more driven by their personal preferences than any high-minded political methodology or doctrine. Recent polling showing a volatile race. Early February data favored Crockett by 12 points due to her 71% favorability among Democrats. Late February surveys suggested a 12-point swing for Tallarico following a Trump FCC-assisted viral media moment with Stephen Colbert's The Late Show, and the most recent polling showing Crockett having regained the overall lead. Interestingly, Tallarico's use of faith to defend progressive policy ideas appears to be appealing to the pundit class, but has been gaining less traction with highly religious primary voters. Many of those are voters of color in the Crockett camp. This all adds up to a test of widely applied Democratic strategy. A Tallarico loss would challenge decades of campaign orthodoxy regarding early spending and moderate outreach. A Crockett victory would signal a shift towards base-first mobilization. I suppose we are fixing to find out. As we've yapped extensively about, the massive Democratic turnout has already made this primary one for the books. John Moritz at the Austin American-Statesman saying Democrats have far led a statewide primary early voting surge that's broken all-time records. VoteHub counts over 1.5 million Democratic ballots cast early. That's a jump of 240% from the last midterm primary in 2022 and 500,000 more than the entire primary turnout in the one before that in 2018 when Beto O'Rourke was on the ballot. Republican early voting also grew significantly this time to 1.3 million ballots cast. That's a 125% increase over 2022. The high-stakes battle for both parties' U.S. Senate nominations, of course, being seen as the big draw. Regional data showing massive participation in the home territories of the two Democratic candidates. The Dallas and Tarrant County strongholds of Jasmine Crockett have seen the most dramatic Democratic turnout spikes. Those are averaging about 325% up, while James Tallarico's home base Austin area counties of Travis, Williamson, and Hayes have jumped huge too, but not quite as huge at about 250%. Both Crockett and Tallarico are hanging out in Houston today. Our state's largest and most diverse city and its surrounding Harris County have seen early voting climb by about 225%. And look at the Valley. This is where Republicans drew new congressional district maps, counting on Donald Trump's newfound popularity down there to hold. Again, both parties are up from usual, but the Dems have seen a huge turnout lead in the RGV during the early voting period. Democrats are outvoting GOP primary voters by a margin of well over 400% in the Valley. It might take until May, but we'll at least get a step closer by tomorrow in terms of the eventual MAGA nominee. Jim Newell at Slate covers the Republican Senate primary in Texas, which has devolved into a bitter three-way battle between incumbent John Cornyn and challengers Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt. Establishment conservative Cornyn, let's say, is somewhat unpalatable to the hardcore Trump base. This is due to his history of inexcusable bipartisan cooperation, including a 2022 gun safety bill. MAGA Nation deeply resents Cornyn's hobnobbing with the likes of Cory Booker and Mark Kelly. Attorney General Ken Paxton leads most polls despite significant personal and legal baggage, which strangely seems almost a badge of honor to these people. Meanwhile, Congressman Wesley Hunt has positioned himself as the more electable MAGA alternative, polling a pretty impressive 17% or so in recent polls. And get this, John Cornyn has already spent over $60 million in attack ads against Ken Paxton, and he has very little obvious damage to show for it. That's $60 million out the window on a race that seems certain to be extended through May. National Republicans are concerned about this massive money hole. As you might imagine, a runoff is going to be tough for John Cornyn. He will add to incumbency fatigue a more diehard runoff electorate, which would favor either Paxton or Hunt in what likely would be just as pricey a runoff phase. All of this adds up to just about the best start the eventual Democratic nominee could possibly hope for. And there's more on this to read in The New Yorker. See, the whole country is focused on Texas right now. Writer Peter Slevin focuses on the Republican Senate race as a battle for the party's very identity. Paxton has not only survived impeachment for bribery and obstruction, he has embraced that experience to bolster his image as a fighter. And it appears to be working, at least with the most MAGA of the MAGA. Cornyn maintains that in the general election, a Paxton candidacy will result in an election day massacre for the Republicans. Meanwhile, the Democrats look to cash in on all this apparent Republican voter dissatisfaction. They're looking at recent special election victories and favorable shifts among Latino voters unhappy with the Trump economy and Trump's violent border enforcement tactics. It's clear to anyone paying attention that Texas Republicans are in their most vulnerable position in decades. But now the Democrats must actually get the job done. This time tomorrow, we'll have a bunch of candidates who have officially become their party's nominees. But silly season won't quite be over yet. Runoff elections are likely for races on both sides of this. The Democratic race for Attorney General is very likely to go to a runoff. Early voting in which is May 18th through the 22nd. Runoff election day is May 26th, which is 12 weeks from today. If you haven't voted yet, today's the day. See the show notes for a ballot form from the Texas Tribune that'll work with your home address to show you who's running in the primary in which you choose to vote. Everything you need to know about voting in Texas can be found at govotetexas.org. Our web store is live and ready for you to grab some newly released Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All, and Rovolution shirts, stickers, and buttons. Hit the web store at progresstexas.org to support your favorite podcast network today. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, May 3rd, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared, bold, progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Happy voting and lots to talk about tomorrow morning.